projectors where?
Here today.
Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Are you
If
rolling?
you want to find a seat back there, people wandering around a little bit. We especially want to thank the family of Mary Kinney. And this is an Alumni Weekend also. There's a lot of events going on this weekend. And we really welcome alumni, especially last night we talked to several people. And it was exciting to talk about stories of the old days. I'm Bob Brucken, class of '67.
And I'm Bob Bender, class of '66. We're just the young guys.
This is not a debate.
Far more entertaining than that.
Many years ago, during alumni events, we wanted to raise some funds for alumni, and a group of us, the committee, came up with we should maybe do a t-shirt. CCAD never really had an official t-shirt, probably. And so we wanted to do an alumni t-shirt, and I went to Mary to get some money, of course. None of us had any. And she said, sure, I'll loan you some money, front money, until you raise some funds. And she said, how about putting some kind of a quote on the back? And I said, why don't you ask Joe and see what he thinks? And Mary came back the next week and said, I've got a great quote from Joe. Like Van Gogh, as you get older, you get better. It's a perfect quote for alumni.
Well, when I started here, I made the mistake of starting in January instead of at the beginning of the year. So this great program that Joe and Mary created here, one of the foundations obviously is the color concept class. So for those of you who have been through that, you can imagine starting in the middle of that. It's like I might as well have been studying nuclear science or something. It'd have been just about as relevant. So I went to talk to Joe, and Joe suggested I audit the class and then start over the next year. So I was fortunate enough to have Joe for a year and a half of color concept. So I really learned it well. Well, the goal of everyone in color concept was to make the chalkboard, Joe's chalkboard. We had about 125 students freshman year, and color concept class was held over in the auditorium in the museum. And it would stage something like this, and Joe would have a chalkboard over here, and he'd walk in and look at all the problems, and he would pick out the best ones and put them up on the chalkboard. And I was thinking recently, we've all watched the Olympics, and those kids that won gold medals, I feel sorry for them because that wasn't nearly as big as getting on the chalkboard with Joe. And when you made the chalkboard, I have to admit, your head started to swell. It get about the size of a Buick. And but Joe had a way. It didn't matter. Before he was done, he found something wrong with everything, and he knew things could be better. So, you know, your head shrunk back down to about the size of a Volkswagen before Joe got done. He knew about the egos of artists, so he managed that very well.
Just a sidebar story to that. I talked to somebody from Mexico last night, an alumni, I think from 1973. I don't know if she's here or not, and I didn't get her name. But she was saying how Joe would kind of really trash her and tear up her color concept project because it wasn't acceptable, and remembers him throwing it against the wall and kind of falling to the floor. And she walked away very depressed and upset, but the next week she delivered a fantastic project and got an A, and she told me that A is framed on her den wall.
In the early 60s, CCA didn't have a lot of social center to the college, and really it was George Kinney and the art supply store was the social center. And we loved to go down and hang around and talk with George. And as you become a little more advanced student, it was fun to have the younger freshmen come in, and there was a large color chart there. And they would come in and ask for a particular tint. I'd like a tube of this. And George would say, that's a tint. And they'd say, what? I want a tube of this. George said, no, that's a tint. And it was fun to watch that. And we hung around the art supply store and, of course, admired George because he had all those art supplies that we all dreamed of owning someday. And that was just the social center in those early years.
When I first came here in 1962, I came with jeans and a sweatshirt on. I can't remember what part of the year it was, probably summer. And I had a portfolio. It was actually a couple of pieces of cardboard taped together with an open end on it, and knocked on the Hutton Place door that had wisteria growing all over it. Some of you older guys, alumni, would remember that. It's quite charming. A little courtyard in the back with a sculpture garden with it that we all strive to get back there someday. And I walked in and was greeted by Mary. She was the only one in one building. There was a pair of buildings, twin buildings. And she said, here's an application. I sat down, filled it out. And then 10 minutes later, I went in and she interviewed me, asked some questions, looked at my portfolio, which I thought was fantastic. You just, not too many comments. She went, And she said, just a minute, I have to show this to Mr. Canzani. And she disappeared for about 15 minutes. And she went out the door, and I thought, where's she going? And she went in the other door where Joe's office was. And she came back a little while later and said, Mr. Brucken, Mr. Canzani would like to talk to you. And I followed her over, and he started looking at my portfolio. It was the same kind of, I expected, wow, this is great. Didn't hear it. And that interview was over, and I kind of regained my presence again. And I began breathing and stopped sweating. And Mary said, she started talking about the budget and how much it costs. And Mary really took me on a tour. She was the treasurer. She was the bursar, the registrar, the admissions director. And I also said to Mary, do you teach? She said, oh no, I don't teach. Mr. Canzani teaches.
I was a couple years older than my roommates because I had to get a job and earn some money in order to get down here when I came down here. And so anyway, I can remember one night, it was probably the first year we were down here, and my roommates were younger, and it was about 3 in the morning, and we were working on our homework, and one of them comes in and says, you know, we're going to assemble and march on the dean's office tomorrow. I said, why? He said, there's just too much homework here. and I said, hell, I grew up on a farm. This isn't work. I said, run along. I was totally at peace with the world. But it's all compared to what, I guess?
There's an alumni in the room that went here when Bob and I were here, and he came, I think, from New York City. He's the first international student that graduated from CCAD. Ming Fei, would you come on up? He's got a couple of sidebar stories I think you might find interesting.
If you don't know, Ming Fei is a very famous fine artist, and he came from Hong Kong. He and Wishes Wong were our first international students. So even in the early 60s, we were an international institution here. And Ming Fei shared with me a very interesting story when he first arrived here last night. So, what's up?
I was here last night, and actually I got lost on the campus. And the story actually goes back to days when the school was really in one building, and that was 1961 when I first arrived. And I came by boat to San Francisco and took a train across country and arrived at Union Station. Mary Kinney picked me up in the red Renault. I don't know how many people know that one. So I was very impressed, and I arrived Beaton Hall, as you were mentioning, there was the building. I remember the door was red, actually. I remember at that time, right? It was red, right? Right. So that was there, and then there was the two little office buildings that was next to it. Later on, Mr. Canzani and Mary Kinney came to visit us, meaning me and Mushuswa and Pansy, and we were cooking. And I remember Mr. Canzani looked at what I was cooking and made some kind of comment like, how can you eat that? And has never stopped about the joke of my cooking ever since. That's what I have to share with you.
What we put together for you here is we want to first thank Jeff Scheinman and SOS Productions, who gave this institution an invaluable gift because he's videotaped Joe and Mary, and for those of us that have had those two folks touch our lives, it really brings back memories. And I also want to thank Helen Hoffeld and Ron Tardino for slides. But we're going to, it'll be a flashback for all of us who have went through the foundation year here. It's amazing stuff, so we'll start to roll the tape.
I hope you see some familiar faces.
And you will.
She handled the curriculum, Mary did. But she also went out and helped getting money. At the time, we're trying to get some money from the government. There was an office here in town. She handled it. She went downtown. I think I went with her only once. Then I went to Europe for several weeks. And I left that poor kid there, that was working, trying to get some money. She went down, I think it was a state office. There was one person down there. She did tell me, he did talk to me though before I went on the trip. He said, you know, Mary Kinney, she is so honest. She is so sincere. He says, if I have more money, I'll give it all to her. And he did. He gave her. I mean, I had anything to do with it. He did it all. Not I. She got $1.3 million. At 3% subsidy grant from the government through that officer who respected Mary Kinney so highly. Then, you know, he said, wait a minute, I can get some more money. He went up to Mary, you know, and says, I think we can get you another, we'll get no subsidy grant, just cash. We'll give you $600,000 more. That's what Mary did. Well, I was having a good time in Florence. And he went to Greece. By the way, the Greeks cook better in Greece than they do here in America. Mary did get that all by herself, as I say, I didn't do anything at all. But just last week, Denny Griffith was so kind to call me and said, I want you to know that this board, the Columbus College Board Design present board, voted unanimously to put Mary T. Kinney's name on the building. The Mary T. Kinney, the one we call V Hall now. The one that Kajitani mural is in front of it. I thought that was wonderful. I do want to compliment the board for being farsighted, for being understanding, and being very, very sincere. You know, as She's so deserving of it. And thank you for that. Thank you very, very much. You're helping kids. They used to look at kids, so many of us, at the dirty kids. To us, they were beautiful kids. If they got smeared a little bit, that was not dirt. They were wonderful kids, talented kids. These are the artists. These are the artists that certainly eventually will show a museum. The kids have to realize that they have to really, really study it, really, really practice it. Not just read about it, they have to practice it and look at it, and take the criticism, no matter how bad. I used to have kids, some of the brightest kids, you say, Mr. Canzani said, tell me what's wrong. I know it's not right. They want me to rip it apart, and I would. The kids who had the guts to do that usually came out on top. And experience has a lot to do with it, Tom. You get so much of, I have to laugh sometimes. People say, what are you worried, tell me, what are you worried about color? You can go to the computer and knock out hundreds of color schemes. I let them say it. Then I look at them again. Then I walk away smiling. I smiled a little bit. And I go, hey, wait a minute. Man, you're going to get hundreds more color schemes in the computer? How the hell do you know which are good, which are bad? I said, number one. Number two, how do you know which one to use for what relationship? And how do you know which relationship is better or worse? I said, it takes an artist with experience to tell you that. So you forget that little box for a while and learn what color really is. What really makes it sing. See, that's the way it's done. Yeah.
Well, CCAD always did have a reputation of being a tough school.
Yeah, but Tom, that's great. See, some people have even criticized that, so you're too tough. What the hell can you do the easy way? Tell me, I'll quit everything. Even now, I'll do it. What? Can somebody come in and take your place the easy way? How many years do they have to erase? Like cumulative knowledge, sensitivities. I don't mind giving some criticism without mentioning any name, but even locally, major universities, small colleges, I can defend it. Every word I say, I can defend it. But I'm telling you, they don't know a damn thing about design. None of them. They don't know a damn thing about color. That's a problem. See, they just don't have it in the curriculum. Color, they say, oh, well, they do it, they express themselves. But Tom, what the hell can you express when you don't know it? Isn't it better to know something before you open your mouth? You see, that's the way the curriculum, this is why, about the foundation program that I really wanted to talk about this morning a little bit. We want in the foundation programs to make the students knowledgeable in everything. So I go up there and do some of the stuff, and after a while, they begin to see. I said, at the essence of the animal. I said, I don't know anything else but the essence, in the simplistic kind of manner, in the simplest kind of form. See, so like here, one line will demonstrate the body, and it goes into the head, and the eye, and the nose. See, almost a continuous line. That's not demanding. You don't have to use a continuous line. We started to teach. I was very young too, believe it or not. So we teaching these veterans, you know. They were tough, but they were good. They were good workers, you know. I used to load them with homework because they needed it. If they needed it, if they were weak in drawing, I'd make them draw. I'll never forget it. In my drawing class one time, one boy who had a tough time in the Army, I forgot now, this is about 50 some years ago. No, that was not 50 some years, 45 some years ago, something like that. He said, teach me how to draw, you know. And I said, well, I'll do my best. And I had a very good teacher in drawing. I had certain facility in drawing myself, so I tried to take him along. And I made him see the structure of drawing, I made him work hard, see. Like the construction of a knee. One of the hardest things to draw is around drawing the neck. The neck I fix into the shoulder, see. I had that poor kid doing it so often. Now that I look back, I guess I was a little bit too tough. But the end, when he graduated, in those years he graduated with a certificate in 3 years, he came up to me and he shook my hand and he said, thank you so much. And you beat the hell out of me, but you taught me how to draw. See? I was teaching, I said, in my experience, I said, maybe I'm all wrong, but in my experience, 46 some years of teaching, I've yet to see one student that ever got angry with me because I was tough with them when I was trying to make them better. Never. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes a lot of the colleges assume that. Too much, you know, catering to the poor kid. And the kids want to be good. That's what I found out. They don't want to be good. They don't want to be successful. I get to meet one kid who said, I don't want to be successful. He wouldn't go to that school anyway because at least we're known, and it still is, you know. It's a tough school, but it's good. That's what we wanted, a reputation. It's tough, but good. See? So that's it. I don't think there's any difference at all in the student, but there's a hell of a lot of difference in the teachers. That's where you have to be careful. Yeah, we were tough, but only from the point of view of quality. The point of view of quality. To give you an example, even on the 3rd year level, we were talking about color, you know. You teach the kids, see, most colleges don't even teach color. They think, oh, they'll do it their way, you know. You know why they don't teach it? Because they don't know what the hell to say. They don't know it. We teach the 3 years of it, the foundation year. We have it, bring it up at the 2nd year level. On the 3rd year level, we have probably one of the best courses in the world. I saw an example of one problem, almost looked one of ours out of a school, in our school in Switzerland. So I said, it must be one of our graduates teaching there because it was too close to what we were doing, you see. But to give you an idea, you know, we just didn't say, you know, paint. And I said, here's one color. What can you do with it? Vary it, watch it. Like he said, take blue. You know, make it green, make it grayer, and grayer, and bluer. Put them together. Look at the variety you can get with one color. See, that's one problem. The kids have to do that with stripes, and they see it. See, they have to see it. They comprehend, they respond. That's what we teach it. Then in the second problem, it goes on to complementary colors. See, like red against green. See, you know, how can you make them work at best? You know, you can use black and white if you want to. You just start using black and white, red against green. Now they realized that they had to dominate in one or the other. In anything, in art and aesthetic, just like music. In music, you know, you want to create a song, you got to dominate with a melody. And you got to hear the melody, you know, I permeate through the entire song. It's the same way with color. See, when you work with color, with say redness against greenness, you have to, you know, dominate. What do you want? What kind of dominance? You want greenness dominant? More of thereof, redness, you know. See, then beyond that, you know.
President Canzani and I are proud, pleased, and honored to give you Mary T. Kinney Hall.
Well, you know it, but you don't know it. It's been my problem right along. You know it all the time.
Minor keys, you know, the melodic character. See, then you go on with more variety of color. Then you teach the kids, you say, no, color has space. Some magazine, I forgot years ago, they gave a print of Van Gogh's room, you know, his bedroom and the window and back, you know, and it was all in yellows, white, yellows, yellow greens, you know, light reds and whatever. See, it is naturally a masterpiece of Van Gogh's kind of genius about color. I noticed, number one thing, Van Gogh made a mistake, but it's not to talk about, you know. In the background, see the window, see, and he painted the frame of the window too dark a color. He didn't have to go that dark. But don't forget, Van Gogh was a genius. He learned color almost by himself, spontaneously, as an artist. You know, I feel almost ashamed to even try to criticize it. I'm just pointing out that nothing dark. See, the same characteristic feeling of color would have come through. But the bad mistake is there's some writer, you know. I think he was a historian of some kind with a PhD. Wrote beautifully. Oh, what a nice article he wrote. I'm telling you, Tom, beautiful, beautiful article. All about Van Gogh and his greatness and everything else. Then toward the end, he said, now you take that print that's in here and mat it on black. And that's all. When I read that, I said, okay, jackass. As soon as you mat that painting on black, you ruin the whole thing. Because the value contrast is too great. It would mar the feeling of the vibrance of yellows and all the colors that Van Gogh used. I just dared to criticize his window that Van Gogh did. Now this character says, you know, mat it on black. That's stupid. You do not do that. You can mat it on a light gray. And you watch that color, you know, glisten. The color of Van Gogh's painting will glisten. I want to say a little bit about design, because design is so important in our lives. And it's being taught so poorly in school. They really don't know what the hell they're doing in design either. When we start out, one of the first problems, this is the third year level, where they begin to recognize some things. We tell them to create a shape, simplicity of shape. See, Now, around the shape, design a poster. And the symbol of that shape, see, as a melodic variety of that shape. Create a poster. Then, you know, go out, you want to be mad to some of you kids, you know, in advertising, create an ad. See? And then we get some of the kids in industrial design say, here, design a building around that shape. They can't say they can't do it, you know, because it can be done. I mean, great architects can design buildings around a shape. I mean, if they can't do it, they're not architects as far as I'm concerned. So, we can give them that. You can do that in variety. Boy, what they know about design comes out immediately. They don't know what to do with that shape. I said, look, you create the characteristic. Why did I give you a shape? Because I want you to feel the characteristic. I said, if it's a square, which is simple, see, you have to get the characteristic of 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, solid, rocky type of thing. If it's a circle, you know, it's curvilinear, it moves, you know, flexibility. And if it's a triangle, you know, it's like in music, you know, like a waltz against a foxtrot, you see. This kind of thing, you go back and forth, music in design, see. And after that problem, you know, they begin to realize something about shape. A little bit, not too much. You give us to create 3 contemporary shapes. I said, black against white, use ink. See, whatever you do, you tell them to